Hi, and thank you for watching us here at Tax Talk UK, where we talk about all things tax and try to help you to navigate the tax system as it applies to you. So today, as part of our bite-sized series of demos helping you to complete a self-assessment tax return, we're going to first look at whether you need to complete a tax return and how to clarify that. And before I go into that, if I could ask, if you're new here, please do take a moment to subscribe to our channel. That way you'll easily be able to refer back to this information should you need to, as well as being able to navigate to lots of other information that we have available to help you to navigate the tax system as it applies to you, and specifically in relation to submitting your self-assessment tax return. If you navigate to the playlist section of our channel and look for the self-assessment bite-sized demo guides, then you can find information to help you to submit your tax return if it's something that you're doing yourself. So back then to whether you need to submit a self-assessment tax return. And firstly, something that's really important to say is that if HMRC have sent you a notice to file a self-assessment tax return, if you check in your HMRC portal account, you will be able to see there also whether they're expecting a tax return from you. If HMRC are expecting a tax return from you and you don't believe that you need to send a tax return, you must let them know, because if they don't cancel that sort of notice to file, then you will receive a penalty for not filing on time. So just because you don't need to submit a tax return doesn't mean you don't need to do anything. If HMRC are expecting a return, you must let them know, and why you don't need to submit a tax return. So in order to help you to understand whether you do need to submit a self-assessment tax return, I'm going to walk you through HMRC's calculator guide that helps you to clarify whether you do need to submit a tax return if you're uncertain of this. So here we are on gov.uk, and if you just search check if you need to send a self-assessment tax return, you will be able to navigate to this tool on gov.uk to help you to clarify whether you need to submit a tax return. So I'm just going to walk you through it, and it's just going to ask you a series of questions. These answers aren't saved, they don't get submitted to HMRC. You can just sort of read through them, and just to help you identify whether you need to submit a tax return if you're not sure. So question 1, did you work for yourself between 6th of April 23 and 5th of April 24? So the tax return that for the last tax year that we've completed. And it gives you a little summary underneath of what the question means if you're not sure. And if you select yes to an answer, then they'll clarify if they need further information to ascertain whether you do need to submit a self-assessment tax return. So let's click yes, and now you can see it's asking which was the work status. So were you self-employed as a sole trader? Were you partner in a partnership? Or were you director of a limited company? So if you select which one, it will then either ask you further questions, or that's all the information that is needed. Next question, did you work as an off payroll worker? So if you've worked as a contractor, it's likely that you will know through your work whether you are work on as an off payroll worker. This is connected with IR35, which is quite complex, so we're not going to go into that question in detail. Just suffice to say that it's likely that you would be aware if you did work as an off payroll worker. On to the next question then. Did you get a pension? So if you did get a pension, was it a state pension? Was it a private pension, or was it from overseas? And now it's going to ask you what was the total income for the tax year. So remember, when we're talking total income, it's not just from the source that's making you think potentially you might need to submit a self-assessment tax return. It's all of your income from all sources. So it has some examples here: your pension, your salary, taxable benefits, property, or investment income. And so once you've added that all up, the next question is asking you which category that falls within. So let's select the correct answer and go to the next step. So now it wants to know, did you claim child benefit? And it's either yes, no, but maybe somebody else claimed it, or your partner claimed it. And this is all geared towards checking if you are subject to the high income, the child benefit high income charge. So now it's going to tell us the results and alert us to the fact that because of the answers relating to the child benefit and the income, if you remember, I selected the 50 to the 150. It is alerting us to the fact that we may need to submit a self-assessment tax return relating to the high income child benefit charge. So I'm just going back to say no on that question so we can carry on. So the next question: did any of your income come from UK property or land? So predominantly rental income, short-term holiday let. And what it's just alerting you here is that you are able to, under the rent a room scheme, earn up to 7,500 in this particular tax year that we've fill in the calculator for, tax-free. So we wouldn't need to include, if that was the case, if you just simply let out a room in your home and earn less than £7,500 in the year, then that wouldn't be relevant. And so now it's asking how much that we received. And again, this is so that the tool can identify whether we need to submit a self-assessment tax return. So the next question, it's asking about dividends, savings and investments, and it wants to know if you earned more than £10,000 from savings and investments. And so I'm going to say no. And the next question is just asking some miscellaneous types of income that haven't been covered in the questions before that could lead to you needing to complete a self-assessment tax return. And so you would just look at those items. If you did have any of those income, then it will give you the guidance, so you can drill down into that further. And just to note, when it says, did you receive £2,500 or more from additional income, it is talking about actual income. So if you received more than £2,500 in income from a source that isn't listed, then firstly, you need to clarify that it was income. For example, if you had a gain on sale of an asset, that wouldn't be income, so that wouldn't fall into this category. So firstly, check that the other income that you're thinking about is a taxable income, and then just check that it is subject to be taxable. So for example, when we looked at the question about renting out your room, you can earn up to 7,500 in this particular tax year. 23-24 is what we're completing the tool for. So therefore that income wouldn't be included. So it's just talking about taxable income here. So once you get to the end, it will tell you, yes, you do need to complete a self-assessment tax return. And I've just reset those answers to get us to the next question. Do you need to pay any capital gains tax? So we have a separate video on capital gains. But so normally if you dispose of an asset, so sell or give away certain assets over a certain value, then this is what this question relates to. I'm just going to, at this point, select no, so we can show you what happens and make sure that we cover all of the questions. Did you hold a position that affects how you're taxed? And again, you're likely to know if this applies to you, but it does have the list, a list of the positions. Did you claim over £2,500 in expenses? So this relates to, so this isn't expenses if you're self-employed. This relates to if you are employed in a PAYE role and you have some expenses that you incur as part of your role that your employer doesn't reimburse you for. That would normally be dealt with in your tax code. But if they are over 2,500, then you would be required to submit a tax return. And again, we have a video on job expenses if you're not claiming those and believe that you may be entitled to some. So now you can see, because I selected no to all of the questions right from the start, all of those questions were geared at checking whether that specific income, whether you had that income and whether what you had from that source meant that you need to complete a self-assessment tax return. So because I've gone through and answered no to all of them, we can now see that the result is that we don't need to submit a self-assessment tax return. And as I mentioned at the start, there is a further prompt here to say that if HMRC has written to you to ask you to send a tax return, you must contact them to let them know why, so that they can cancel that request. If you're not sure if you received a letter, you can log into your personal tax account, and that will show you under the relevant tax year, whichever tax year you're looking at, it will show you whether HMRC are expecting a return from you. So that is really important, because if they are expecting a return and they don't receive one, then you will be penalised. You will receive a late filing penalty because you didn't notify them that you didn't need to submit a return. So that's really important. Obviously, if you're not sure on any of the questions, then the tool is only as good as the information that's put in. So if you answer no to something that should be yes, for example, it won't give you an accurate but hopefully that this gives you an understanding of how to use the tool. If you still aren't certain whether you need to submit a self-assessment return, then we would suggest that you may need to seek the services of a professional to support you in this. And of course, as we always say, if you are engaging somebody to help you with something, please make sure that they're qualified for the advice that they're giving you, that they're a member of a professional body, if applicable, and that they do hold professional indemnity insurance. So hopefully this helps you to understand that it gives you an insight of the factors that will impact whether you need to do a self-assessment tax return. And it works both ways. If HMRC haven't requested a tax return, but you do have any of these incomes that require them, then it is your responsibility to notify HMRC that you have that income and that you do need to notify them. And again, we have other videos that help you with that. But ultimately, if HMRC need or expect tax return from you, then you must meet the filing deadline to avoid any penalties. So as I mentioned before, please do take a moment to subscribe to the channel, and we hope that you found this information helpful. Thank you. Goodbye.